All right. Hey, this is Abby Parrish, and we are in for another episode of A Feminine Touch God's Way. Jeshua and I are recording today in person, which is actually a rarity right now, so it's pretty exciting. And not only are we doing something special by being physically with one another, we're also going to be entering into a new little, maybe segment is the right word for it, but it's called the Carpet Conversations. And Joshua's going to explain that more in a bit. I hope you guys stay, and I'm excited to get to just share what's going on in my life with you. Okay, see you soon.
Hi, and welcome to A Feminine Touch God's Way, where I, Abby Parrish, and my sister-in-law, Jeshua Parrish, discuss God's design for women in the family, the church, the community, the workplace, and so much more. We are so excited for you to listen in on our stories and experiences as we turn to the Bible and seek God's will for our identity as His daughters, so that together we can reap the blessings created within the biblical boundaries of womanhood. All right. Hi, Abby.
Hey, Jay.
I am so excited we get to record this specific episode in person, as we're going to introduce the carpet convos, as you kind of just mentioned to our listeners. So I'm just going to dive in and kind of explain what the carpet convos are.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So when we were in college, we had this beautiful, well, really you had, it was yours.
I was given a beautiful rug for Christmas, and it was like the only thing I wanted for Christmas of my junior year of college. And it's so pretty.
It is so cute. It's like got blues and pinks, and it's so comfy, and
it sounds girly, but it is girly.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's feminine, but the feminine touch.
I mean, like, it's not one of those, like, you know how people can buy like a fluff carpet that looks like it's got animal fur on it? It's not that. It's not thick and shaggy. It's a tight woven carpet that is classy but girly.
Yeah. All that to say, as beautiful as the carpet was itself, what I remember most of the carpet is all the conversations we had on it.
There were a lot.
Yes. And we would,
because this was the carpet that was on the floor in Jeshua and I's dorm room for our 2 years of being roommates.
Yeah. So basically we had a routine because we are such good friends, and we knew that we had homework to do. Mm-hmm. So we had a system set up to where we'd be like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? And the other person would kind of look at their schedule and be like, yes, I have 5 minutes. And we would literally move away from our desks and our beds, and we would sit on the carpet. Mm-hmm. And we knew that in these 5 minutes, we needed to talk about what mattered, not fluff, because we didn't know when the other person would have another opportunity to basically share their time.
Yeah. It was just a concentrated time of uninterrupted either listening to or speaking to the person in front of you.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about, I was like, I miss those conversations. And then I thought, why not make that an episode that we do every once in a while? We just kind of take a break from what we've been doing, and we break into what I hope our listeners enjoy hearing is the carpet convo. And
because that's literally what we'd refer to it at school sometimes too. Like, okay, I need a carpet convo.
I literally thought about naming this podcast like a carpet convo.
Really?
I legitimately thought about it.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
I think the name we have now, though, is still better.
Yes. So,
it's more poignant.
So basically,
that would have been so fun.
So our listeners know what they're getting into. Carpet Convo episodes will just be Abby and I sharing what God is doing in our life in that season or that day or that week. Mm-hmm. What challenges we're facing, what joys we're enjoying, and just really kind of giving you guys an insider view of what our friendship looks like a lot of the times behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So with that, let's just dive right in again.
Well, actually, I had one more thing to add to that. As Jeshua and I were talking about this podcast episode ahead of time before we hit play, or before we hit record, excuse me, one thing that she brought up that I think is very helpful for our listeners is that this conversation, this episode, might not be so beneficial in substance. Like, it is Jeshua and I just sharing our day. And I hope that that is substantive to those of you who are listening. But if you're listening to it and you're just like, wow, she's just talking about how she mows the yard, or Jeshua's just talking about Neo's cute outfit, those things, I mean, to some people might be substantive and to others it might not be. But I really encourage you to look at the form of our conversation and just being able to see, okay, this is how godly women can interact with one another. Joshua brought it up earlier, like, it doesn't involve gossiping. It doesn't involve tearing one another down. It's not fluff. It's a conversation that is geared towards building one another up. So whenever you're studying theology, there's descriptive and prescriptive theology. And descriptive is like describing what happens in the book. And prescriptive is describing something, but also saying this is what you should do. And I feel like most of the carpet convos, I could be wrong, correct me if I am, but I feel like a lot of them will have prescriptive things in it, things that are prescribed to people that we encourage them to do or not do. But a lot of it will be just descriptive, where you're just going to see kind of how we live and think and how we move about our day and how our minds work. And it will hopefully spur and encourage you to do likewise in a way that is becoming of you and honoring to the Lord.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I don't know. I think it's so helpful to reflect, just to pause in whatever moment you are in life and reflect on the things God is doing. And for me, the best way to do that is to talk with somebody who shares my love for the Lord and cares about me. And so the Lord conveniently and to my great blessing has used you as that person, that I've come to and been like, Abby, look and see what the Lord is doing. Is this not insane? Or sometimes these conversations started with, do you have time for a carpet convo? And you sat down and was like, you really offended me because of this, this, and this. And those conversations were not as fun, but were just as important,
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and then also, it's just because the Lord has blessed us in our friendship. So we're recording this because we're excited to share I'm excited to share with Jeshua what I'm up to. And I think she's excited to share with me what she's up to. And the reason we thought it would be profitable for you guys is because it is our prayer that I can't speak for Jay, but it is my prayer. I was praying this just right before I came in, that our listeners be gifted with good friends that they can have similar conversations with. And just as an aside, friendships like that are built. They don't really happen by accident. And I don't just mean they're built because it's the sovereignty of God, but also there's legwork of individuals that gets put into cultivating good, healthy relationships. And there was a long time in my life where I did not have a good friend like Jeshua. And I have other good friends too, but Jeshua is by far my bosom friend. So just pointing that out, like if you're listening and you're like, well, I don't have a bosom friend. There's no Anne of Green Gables to my...
I love this quote.
But anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Like if you're just struggling and thinking, well, I don't have what Abby and Jeshua have, I encourage you not to get down on yourself, but rather to listen and go, well, how can I be a friend like that to people that are around me? And instead of focusing on what you don't have, focus on what you can give. And I think that your efforts will be blessed in cultivating friendships that you might not expect.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Actually, we did not pray before hitting record, so I think we should actually pause and pray.
I prayed.
You prayed? Okay, well,
we'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll be back. We're back. That was my bad. Anyway, okay, so.
That was a good little break.
Yeah, we needed that.
What were we, like 5 minutes in?
I think so. Okay.
It was an intense 5 minutes. I was ready for tap out.
Oh my goodness. I would love to start by hearing about your week.
My week, or like...
You know what? How about you just, however much you want to share.
Okay, just start talking.
Just talk it up.
Okay. I've had a crazy week. Everyone. I don't know whenever this podcast is going to be aired. So, but at this time in my life, can I share the date?
Yeah, I know it's a little awkward to be... Just a side note, we pre-recorded these episodes because we're newbies at podcasting and we thought this would be helpful. So thank you for bearing with us. But as of right now, it is actually May 7th when this is being recorded.
2023.
2024.
Oh my gosh, 2024. You can edit. Anyways, it's May 7th, 2024 in the year of our Lord. And I don't know when you're going to listen to this, but hopefully it'll be soon. And I'm sure a lot of the stuff I say will still be applicable because it will be a reality, even if it's just a later reality. But as Joshua and I have talked about previously in our podcast, I wear a lot of hats. And the two heaviest hats right now that I wear is I run a school called Freedom Rings Academy. Excuse me. And then I also run a lawn care business that I co-own with my brother Quinn called Parish Lawns. So if you live in the Jerseyville area and you want your yard mowed, call me. But anyways, it's May 7th, and like I just said, it's the reason mowing is such a heavy hat is because the rain is coming down and the grass is growing quickly. And the reason managing the school is such a heavy task is because I'm one of the main people who's got boots on the ground up there. And then also it's just the end of the semester and things are starting to loose ends are being tied up. But I have recently, through a lot of prayer and a lot of seeking of wisdom from wise counselors in my life, have decided that I'm going to be stepping down from my role as the head of Freedom Rings Academy. And there was a lot that went into that decision. And I'm trying to right now sift through in my mind how much of that to share. Maybe you can ask questions to kind of dig out what you think would be good or not good.
Yeah.
But basically there was just a lot going on. And I didn't step down from the role because it was hard, or I didn't step down from the role because it was exhausting or draining. Even though it was those things, I would gladly do a job if it was those things and continue to do it joyfully. And I feel like I did a good job of doing that this past year. But the Lord just through a bunch of different things, whether it be through conversations with several parents or conversations with several other heads of schools who have kind of been guiding me and leading me in this journey, has just really, the Lord has used that to bring clarity into my spirit. And I don't want to sound new agey, but I have just earnestly been seeking God's will and have just been saying, God, I want to do what your will is. I see the value of giving these kids a good biblical Christian education, but I don't know if I'm supposed to do this for another year. I don't know if this is supposed to be my role in these children's lives for another year.
I would love, so since I have a bit more knowledge, I think one thing that might put this into perspective and help our listeners understand your decision here, could you speak for a minute of how the Lord, I don't know, convicted you really when you started the school, like how your heart
like way back in October
changed? I mean, yeah, because that was so,
I should
that
have
was
brought
a
my
big
diary.
deal.
Anyways, keep going.
I mean, you can go grab it if you need to, but
I'll think for a minute if I need to.
Okay. Anyway, I just remember when you originally told me about the school, we were all super excited. And then you just made an offhand comment of, I don't know what the Lord has for the school. And I was thinking, yeah, you do. You just started it. Clearly, you should know what the Lord wants from you.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's a good point.
You know, like that was really hard. And I think, yeah, I just have a lot of respect, and we serve a good God who has used this very difficult situation to sanctify you. And I'd just love for you to speak into that for a moment.
Okay. So I don't know how many people will listen to this podcast that will know me personally. Sorry about squeaking. But if you know me personally and you disagree, that is totally fine. You can contend with me on this. But if you don't know me personally, just take my word for it. I think I'm a pretty charismatic person. I'm just typically excited about life, and I have a skill set of being able to make other people excited too. And whenever I came back from college 3 years ago, I was upset that I was brought back home. I didn't know why the Lord had brought me back to Jerseyville.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
And I know I've talked about that in podcasts before, so I'm not going to dig too into it. Thanks for reminding me of that. But basically, I was like, God, what do you want from me? And during the course of that, one thing that I thought he had clearly put on my heart to do was to start a school. And there were a couple reasons for that, but mostly it was just because I loved the way that people who have been educated in a classical Christian way think. And I was just consuming books and audio and podcasts by people who were classically educated. And I was like, I love these thinkers. I think they're brilliant. And I would love to be able to be a part in my community to raise up more people like this. Because this is awesome. This is rich. This is beautiful. This is good. is true. And that really set fire in my heart to get something like that going in my own community. And I partnered with another couple, and we kind of just took the idea of starting a classical Christian school and ran with it. And the truth was, we started it a little prematurely. I definitely was excited about starting the school back in the summer. Not the summer. It would have been Christmas a year ago. So if it's 2024, it would have been the Christmas of 2022. That might be confusing, but it's accurate. And basically we're like, okay, we can either take a year to gather information and then start the school, or we can try to like hit the ground running and start the school by the fall of 2023. And that's what we, as a unit, decided to do for the most part. And I, along with this other family, was able to convince and encourage and inspire other parents to put their kids in the school, basically. And had, in a sense, the support of my family as well. And it got to a point where I knew that I was supposed to start the school. Like that also, I've looked back on it several times, and there's not a doubt in my mind that this school is supposed to be around for the year that it's been around. But we quickly started encountering obstacles that I know that we wouldn't have encountered if we would have waited a year to do research and then start. And not as a result of the obstacles, but just as a result of the Lord making it clear to me that I think that there were things whenever I was starting this school that I was doing that were unwise. I didn't search out very many counselors. I kind of just dove into it. And the counselors that I did search out were not very wise people. They weren't evil or anything, but they just weren't seasoned with wisdom. And then also, I realized that I was searching out and desiring to be a part of this school largely because of what I just said of I just love the way classical people think, but also out of a selfish desire of I want something to do, and I think this would be a good way for me to occupy my time. And there's nothing bad in it. And that's true. Like I'm teaching kids about the Lord and about how to think well. But the spirit of just if there was any inclination of selfishness of, oh, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for a good time, if you will, like just something fun. For building my own kingdom, I guess would be a good way to put it of, wow, look at Abby. She came home and she started a school. Oh, wow, look at Abby. The Lord obviously has a plan for her why she's still single because she's doing this good thing. Oh, wow, look at Abby. And it was very much, even though I wouldn't have said it or acknowledged it at the time, and even though this was, I promise, it was not the predominant force, but it was still a force of wanting to be looked at myself. And the Lord showed me that right after school started.
Yeah, I remember that.
And yeah, whenever I told Jeshua, I was like, hey, I don't know what the future of the school actually looks like because I'm being convicted for partially wanting to start it to build my own kingdom. And I don't think that's right. I know that's not right. Jeshua was actually pretty mad at first.
I was very mad.
But through me being able to share kind of more of what the Lord was showing me, I think that you kind of came around.
Yeah, I think my heart softened to you because I know what it's like to want to build your own kingdom. Mm-hmm. I'm guilty of that. And I continue to struggle, with that concept of there's just something very alluring, I think, to young women to go and prop themselves up and just say, I don't know how many times I heard it in college. I don't know if you heard it, but just like, oh, well, don't get married and waste your degree,
Yeah, I heard that too.
That's just such a lie, I think.
Yeah, it's so true. It's true that it's a lie.
Because I don't do anything with my degree, but I definitely would not say I've wasted my life.
Mm-hmm. And you learned valuable skills that you apply.
Yes.
Like just how to think well.
Yeah, thinking of itself as such a useful gift. Yeah. But also I can relate because I remember you basically saying something along the lines of, I really didn't take the time to seek God's will for a lot of the details of the school.
Yeah.
I just, of my own Abbey power, made it happen.
Yeah, and because I'm charismatic, it kind of worked.
yeah, you are, guys, she's such a force, which is, it's a good thing. But I just think it's so cool because you are such a strong personality that you did the right things and you made it happen. You moved the ball forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes me think of, I've been reading in Isaiah, and I couldn't tell you where it is, but God basically is rebuking them. And he says, if you had sought my counsel, you would have known not to use the Egyptian strength, you know?
Yeah, like not to do it the way you did it.
If you had taken the time just to ask.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but I think it's been encouraging to me to see you didn't do that. You did your own thing, and God let you do that. Yeah. He allowed the school to start. He allowed you to go through very difficult trials that probably wouldn't have been there had you sought his counsel. Yeah. And in his grace, there's still been fruit.
Oh my gosh. And that's something I definitely want to hit on, maybe in a minute, but for sure about the seeking of counsel, I did not do that very well. I sought people who would tell me what I wanted to hear. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like I was going out to do that. But I also just wasn't diligent in seeking anything else. And, excuse me. And as a result of that, like, I remember what I wrote in my journal around this time. And it was basically like, I'm like a little child and I have these grubby little toddler fingers. And I so badly want whatever it is that's in the cookie jar. And I'm crying for it, and I'm asking for it, and I'm begging for it. And it's like the Lord finally says, okay, you can have what's in the cookie jar. And I put my hand in there, and I reach, and I grab it, and I pull it, and I have my grubby fingers all over it. And I realize this actually is not a cookie at all. It's a dog biscuit. And now I have it, and I have to eat it. Because I asked for it, and the Lord in his goodness was like, okay, I'm telling you that there's better things if you would just wait for what I have in the oven. And this, in this analogy that I'm sure will fall apart at some point, but it's just the idea of, I, like a child, said, Lord, this is what I want, give it to me. And again and again and again, I said that, not just the school, but God, give me something to do here that I want to do. Stop giving me things that I don't want. And the Lord finally gave me what I wanted, and I realized I wanted something that was not evil, but not best.
Yeah.
And the Lord was like, okay, you have it, and you will grow very much from it. And I have grown a lot from it.
And he's never left you. That's, it's just so crazy to me to think, like, you asked for this thing, and you demanded it, and you kind of, forced your way.
Is a good way for it.
In it, and God gave it to you. And instead of saying, okay, there's your bed, now lie in it, he has instead equipped you every day to go into school and share this truth with these kids. And it's just been, I don't even know if I have the words. It's just been so encouraging to watch and to be like, that's the God we serve, who, when we sin, he convicts us and he shows us. And when we repent and we fall in his grace, he then supplies us everything we need to live out the repercussions of what we ask for and still give fruit on top of that. Like, there's been so many good things that's come through the school, you know?
Which is one of the good things that have come from the school, is why I know, I'm like, okay, the Lord definitely, I would do it again. I would do this school year again, even though I'm saying in retrospect, I didn't seek wisdom. I'm not saying I would do that again, but there's been so much fruit. God has been so good that it was worth it. Maybe it's a better way of saying, not I would do it again, but it was worth it. It wasn't worth me sinning, and I've repented of that. But the fruit has been worth the hardship. The fruit has been worth the sweat.
Yeah.
But what happened is, in October, the Lord just really humbled me and basically showed me, okay, you have your grubby little fingers in this, and now you can have it. And that was it kind of knocked me on my feet. Off my feet, sorry. And it just helped me realize, okay, I don't know what is best for me. And I need to lean into all of the wisdom that I had previously been shirking. And because of that, the Lord has really sustained me this past year. Like, even though this past year was hard, Jeshua mentioned, like, the Lord never forsake me. Not that he would, because we serve a God that is faithful and good and who does not forsake his children. But if I had to sum up this past school year in one word for me, or just this past year, it would be sustained. Because I have been tired and I have been weary, and it has been hard, but I have been held by the Lord. And any of the good fruit that has come of it is from God. And I am just getting to kind of enjoy knowing that I was a tool in my Maker's hands. And that's very comforting.
Yeah.
But do you want me to talk about some of the fruit?
I was actually going to ask you a more pointed question because another thing that's been cool for me to watch, kind of, you mentioned it a little bit last night when we chatted, but just the idea that, so one thing I've always known about you when we were roommates is that you have a strong personality, and not just that you're charismatic, but that you like to be the one pushing the cart at Walmart. You like to be the one who's telling us where we're going. You like to be the one that is calling the shots. And one thing
I'm very comfortable in that role.
Yeah. And
you're like too comfortable.
I mean, sometimes. But one thing that was just interesting hearing you talk about was how this experience has really shown you that that's not really the way God has designed you. And to sustain this in a long-term sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really interesting to hear you say, because I've thought in the past, like, one thing that Abby's probably going to struggle with in marriage is allowing her husband to put on that role. So could you talk about that for a second, how this hardship has just softened you in that way?
Okay, I would actually love to. Okay, this takes me back to actually a conversation that, not a conversation, but a scripture that I read several months ago that has been just soaking into my soul since I read it. And I don't remember what it is. I think it's Psalm 128, but it's really short. And we'll have to link it in the show notes for sure what psalm that it is, because I don't remember where it's found off the top of my head. But basically, it's a short psalm of David, and he's basically saying, my eyes are not lifted up. My heart is not too high. Instead, you have calmed and quieted my soul, like a child with its mother. Like a child with its mother is my soul been calmed and quieted. And it's basically just this psalm that's basically saying that we do well to be in a position of humility. And we do well to not place ourselves into a high pedestal, and to realize that there are things that we don't have to understand or be in charge of. And just like a small child is just with its mom, and it's able to say, your son Neo doesn't really get to make demands and argue with you and reason with you. He's a small child with his mother, and he has a specific course that you've set for his day, and he doesn't really get a say in it.
Yeah.
And in a similar way, that psalm was very encouraging to me, to kind of show me my place in my relationship, not only just with the Lord, but also with whoever my spiritual heads are, because I also have elders in my church. So there was that. And then about a week ago, before I talked with Jay last night, there was a time whenever I was just praying to the Lord, and Jeshua had just come into town, and she was serving our home, and she's been here all week. And she offered me that morning if she could help me with anything. And I told her that morning, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I've got it all figured out. I'm busy, but I can handle what I got. And then later that day, I was praying to the Lord. I was like, God, is there anything you want me to have Jeshua help me with? Because I really don't want her help. I want to be able to accomplish all these things on my own, like I have been doing. Like Jeshua comes in at the end of the school year, and Jeshua comes in at the end of the school year, and all of a sudden I need her help. I was like, no, I don't want to need her in that way of a physical need. She helps me a lot emotionally and spiritually and mentally, but I've been fine all school year without her help. And basically in that moment, I don't know if it was the Lord who put this thought in my mind, or if it was just me who realized the pride of what I had just said, but it was a thought that I had of, you've never been doing any of this on your own. You've been helped and aided by every single person in your life this whole time, and accept the help. So there's all of those things to say, like there's just underlying pride in my heart that the Lord has slowly been chipping away at me. and has helped me recognize more of it and helped me recognize it more quickly. And then last night I was just talking to Jeshua about, I'm just talking to you, so we're having a conversation right now.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just about how this school has been ran by me, and that is actually very exhausting. And there are so many times when I've been running this school with some aid from the board, but we don't really have a board. And just being like, I really want to just be a helper right now. I really want to not be the one who has to call all of these shots. I really want to submit to someone else in this, because leading this is exhausting, and being in charge of all of these things is very heavy for my frame. And doing it alone and doing it consistently and doing it where I'm the top dog all of the time, if you will, has just been draining in a way that I realize is not what is best for me. I've several times just wished, I really wish a man were here doing these things, because I think that, not that men are smarter or anything like that, but just they're built to carry heavy loads and burdens. And running a school is a heavy load and burden that comes with so many benefits and blessings. But also it is a heavy weight as well. Does that kind of touch into what you were mentioning?
Yeah, for sure. And I think we've been really blessed by some godly men and examples in our lives that showcase how to bear that burden, and they do it well. And I think it's just so, I don't know, like we were built to come alongside that heavy load and just be like, let me help you with that. But when we're bearing it by ourselves is when it gets just so, we can do it for a while.
Yeah.
Like women, I genuinely think can do it for a while and do it well. And I think some women might be solely called to do something like run a school, and that's all they do.
Yeah.
But if you haven't sought God's counsel and you don't know that to be the case, then you might be putting on a burden that the Lord never meant for you to carry in the first place.
Or at least not for long.
Yeah.
So, and I also do want to clarify, I have been receiving a lot of help at the school, specifically from my dad, who is my spiritual head, because he's kind of the one acting board member, which if you guys hear that and you're like, oh wow, the school's only being run by one family, I get how that might be an area of concern. We understand that. So, but anyways, I'm not the only one I'm the one who makes the final call, but I have sought, since school has started, wise counsel from my dad, my parents, and other wise people that help me in those decisions.
Yeah, you're the face and hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
Mm.
But their time, the time of other people has also been poured into this school, and it is better off because of those people sacrificing their time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you don't get to see those people like you get to see me doing the work, because those are the people that I have the late night conversations with. Those are the people that I have the 20-minute phone calls in the middle of the day whenever I'm faced with something challenging. And I can't mention all of them, but they've been a blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, school's been really cool to watch unfold.
Yeah, it's taught me how, and I kind of want to ask you about this, but it's taught me so much more about how to have a rightly ordered life. Like, because with the school, my life has been kind of disordered. I've focused everything into the school, which is kind of community. And I think...
And work,
yeah. And I think a better order of your life is like, love the Lord, love your family, love your church, then your community should be fourth in that lineup.
Yeah.
And this has just kind of flipped everything on its head, and has forced me to really realize what a rightly ordered life even has in it. Like, I don't think I could have rightly articulated it beforehand, but now, because there's been several months of just being out of whack, if you will, it's helped me really, really prize and have to fight for any semblance of an order that is pleasing to the Lord that's best.
Yeah.
So, like, was there a time whenever you were ever like, man, I need a life that has more order to it? And how do you order your life in the midst of a different schedule.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear about your life and I just think mine is so different. It is so different.
They
right
are
now.
really different.
So, but at the same time, when we were in college, I would have told you I would be the one in the workplace giving it my all, calling the shots, because I wanted to be an attorney. I don't know if I've mentioned that on the podcast yet, but that was honestly, I would say an idol in my life for a long time, because I wanted that more than I was interested in understanding anything else God might want for my life. Not that I even knew what that was at the time, but literally, similar to you, I hadn't even sought God's counsel. I just was like, God, this is what I want to do. If you don't want me to do it, close the door.
Yeah.
And he closed the door, but I was not anticipating him to do that. I actually didn't want him to do that. So, yeah, I'm a bit more removed from that heartache, but that was so painful to have built up my kingdom only to have the Lord knock it down and realize that I had wasted so much time and energy to move toward this goal that I thought that when people know Jeshua, they're going to know an attorney and they're going to know somebody who's respectable and smart and they're going to know all these things, instead of thinking how I could use my time and my talents to advance God's kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And again, similar to you, by God's grace, he took my situation and I repented, and he still allowed me to bear fruit as he sustained me through that. And there are times it's still hard, honestly, because unfortunately, we live in a culture that tells women that their highest meaning in life is a workplace. And while it's not wrong for women to be a part of the workplace, in fact, I think for some women it would be wrong not to. But I do think that, like you're saying, when it's disproportionately ordered, that's when there's a lot of heartache.
Yeah, that's when things go wrong.
If you don't have God as the center of your life, and what I mean by that is be in his word, submit to his will, truly say, what I want more than anything in this season of life is what you want for me, Lord. Even if that comes at the cost of insert whatever idol you most value in the moment.
Yeah.
And having that aligned first shifts everything else a little bit, because then all of a sudden
that's a good point.
You're willing to, or at least I was willing to say, okay, I want a husband and my husband wants this for me, so I guess that's what I want for me too. And children was another curveball I wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
And just the workplace is propped up as something that's very enticing for women, but in all reality doesn't bear the kind of fruit God wants, I think.
I think oftentimes that's true.
Oftentimes, yeah. And really, it's kind of sad because the family unit in itself, when it is properly ordered, the fruit that it bears is eternal.
Yeah.
The workplace that you check in at and submit to some stranger, like literally, women submit to men all the time, regardless if they're married. If they choose to work in a cubicle, they
got a boss.
They still got a boss, and it's just like,
another boss could be a chick. We're not trying to say that they can't, but there's just a lot of dude bosses.
There's so much more freedom in a family unit when it's rightly ordered. Like, I submit to my husband, who loves and cares for me. Literally, he works all day long so that I can stay home and take care of our kid. I don't want to squander that.
Yeah. And like, I'm sure Gabe, if he could, he would love to be able to stay home and swap jobs with you and be where he gets to stay home with Neo.
I mean, he said that at times, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, just like, I'm sure that there are things about what women do that is enticing to men, but it's not what God has called them to do.
Yeah, I think you see that too. I think you see some stay-at-home dads occasionally, which again isn't in of itself wrong. It's only wrong when you desire that thing above what God's will for you actually is.
Yeah, when the order is off.
Yeah. And a lot of times God calls men to go out and provide. I don't know how we got on this tangent. I don't even know if it's still on topic.
Well, I was asking you about just rightly ordered living.
Yeah.
But for sure with the school, it helped me realize that within the order of living, like, and I could be corrected in this as I grow in my maturity of my Christian walk, but the Lord first, and then your family, and then the church, and then the community. I would say it's those four. And I think that there was already some disorder in my life before the school started. And just like anything, whenever it gets put under pressure, what is already there shows through. And I think that the school helped really refine me and help me see that I was not ordering my life rightly, or as rightly as I otherwise could have.
Wow.
And I'm really thankful for that. It's super sanctifying. Like, the school is still sanctifying. It's still going on right now. And I think it will continue to grow. And I know that this school has blessed families, and it has strengthened children, and it has shared the gospel with them daily, almost daily. And it has given little boys and little girls the opportunities to see who they can be in Christ. And it has pushed back against the darkness for an entire 9 months, and there has been beautiful fruit from that. And for those good things, 1 year of these hard things has been worth it. I have given up a lot of what I wanted for this school to exist. And at the time, I thought I was giving up what I wanted, like free time or sleep, or the ability to just have, I don't know, just to do something fun. And I thought at the moment I was giving it up for things that I didn't want. Not that I didn't want the school, but I just thought I'm giving more than I'm getting. But now that the school is over, or almost over, I'm realizing that I gave what the Lord required of me in the season of life that I was in. And by the fact that any fruit was allowed to be born at all is more than I deserve. And yes, a lot was given, but so much more has been reaped, because these kids have been just spiritually poured into day in and day out. And these families have, and these moms and dads have seen it. And that's encouraging to me.
Yeah. It's been an adventure, and it's been really cool to watch.
Well, that's good. Praise God.
Is there anything specifically that our listeners and myself can be praying for you? I know it'll be
a couple weeks by the time this episode comes out. But since it'll be a couple weeks since then, just pray that the moms and dads of Freedom Rings Academy specifically, that they would continue to desire and diligently pursue the Lord's will for their children. Not that I don't think that they won't, but it's always helpful to have, it's always good to have someone who's helping you doing that. Like, I've been a partner with the moms and dads these past 9 months in helping their children pursue righteousness. And now they just won't have me as a helper. And I'm not all that great, but that's one of my prayers, is just, Lord, as I step out, please please just encourage these moms and dads in a way that is very tangible to them. Because I've been able to encourage their children in righteousness, and I ask that that would continue even when I'm not there, because you're the one who does the work anyway, Lord.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that prayer request makes sense, but just that the work would be continued, the seeds would be watered.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Fortunately, we are out of time now, though. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode was encouraging to you, or made you think, or maybe there's somebody in your life that you're thinking of would benefit from just pondering the order of their life, please hit like, maybe leave a review, and send it to that friend. We really appreciate it. That's how our podcast spreads, and other people hopefully get to hear it. We hope you all have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.